Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Write with Neethus. This is me, Hannah Kishaji. Let's dive in and make writing easier together. I hope you're all doing good. We're seeing after a 1 week's gap. I hope everyone's doing good. Your preparation is going well, and writing, one of the toughest modules, is also going well. You can comment any questions you have while I'm explaining, or in anything that I'm saying. If you have any questions, if you need any clarifications, please feel free to comment, and we'll be reading your comments, and I'll definitely be answering your questions as well. All right. So we started off with the basics. So when we started our first live last week, I told you we're starting off with the basics, saying writing is one of the 4 modules of International English Language Testing System. That's how we started. I'm saying that just to show that we literally started from the basics, from the base level. And we talked about the time, the timing, the score, the assessment criteria, and I told you about the importance of knowing what the examiners are looking for, because only if we know what they're looking for will we be able to give them what they want. And so it's very important that we have complete understanding of what they're looking for. We started off with the assessment criteria, and I had decided to explain that in detail, so we could only cover one of the assessment criteria, and we'll be covering the other assessment criteria today. I hope you're all ready for it. First, let's recap. Let's do a quick revision of what we learned. Not actually what we learned, what we saw in the previous life. And those things you don't have to learn, but you should have an understanding of. So all the content, all the things that I told in the last live, you should have an understanding of those things. You don't need to by heart or actually learn it. Okay, so this is just for your understanding. But if you ask me, is it important? Yes, it is important to understand. If it's just for understanding, what is the point in you spending so much time explaining it? Because I told you this will be the first and last time we're doing this. We wouldn't come back to these areas after this, because after understanding this, then it's done. Then we have so many other things to focus on and learn and practice. Okay, so we'll be focusing on those things in the upcoming live. So by today, I'm planning to finish it. If not by today, then by the next live, we will finish the basics, the things that are very important for you to have an idea about. So now I'll show my screen. I'll share my screen so you'll be able to see what's written there. So first we started off with IELTS writing overview. We saw that with 4 modules. I'm not going into any of those things in detail. I'm just showing you just a quick recap. So it's different. So writing is different for academic and general training. We had discussed that, and what is the examiner looking for. So I told you task response. For task 2, they're looking for task response. For task 1, task achievement. Even if you get confused with which one is task response, like which one's for which, that's totally fine. You don't need to worry about it. You only need to worry about one thing, that are you answering to the question? That's the only point you need to worry about. For both task 1 and task 2, what they're looking for is, are you answering to the question? Sometimes students go off topic. They talk about so many other things other than what the question is asking for. So then task response, task achievement, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy. These are the 4 assessment criteria. We had a look at, we went through those things. Then we went through the timings. I'm not getting into the details because we already discussed those things in detail. Then score calculation, I had shown you an example, so we shouldn't be spending much time today on such things. All right. Then I had shown different questions like the bar, the line, the pie, the maps. I had shown you different types of graphs here. Then now, what to do in writing task 1? We had discussed that in writing task 1 academic, you only have to describe what you see. So you have this bar, you have line, you have maps, you have process, you have pie charts. In the previous live, I had actually shown you the pictures of those things, so just so that you get an idea about it. So we'll get into we'll have a look into those things in detail in the upcoming lives. I just wanted to show you the pictures, so I showed you those pictures. And now, what to do in writing task 1 academic? So you'll be just describing what you see, summarize, make comparisons where relevant, write in a formal or neutral style. I mean, we'll look into those things in detail when we do a task 1 together. Then task 2, what do you have to do? Then academic style. So we also had a look at a letter writing, general writing task 1, which is letter writing. So where you will have to write letters. So personal letter, semi-formal letter, then formal letter. Then task 2 is academic, write an essay. However, in general training version, the questions are a bit different. Then we looked at general writing task 2, where the question types are a bit different. So then first we looked at task achievement for task 1. What exactly is that? If you ask me to answer this question in one sentence, I would say it's about answering to the question. The question asks you something, question shows you something, you're describing what you see, only what you see. You will not give your personal opinions, you will not give tell them what you know about it. If the question shows sun rises in, I always give this example, this is an extreme example, I totally agree with it. Sun rises in the east, right? We all know that. The question says sun rises in the west, and that's what they've shown. We will write what they show us. We will describe what we see. We may know that that's not wrong, that's not right, or something else is right. It is irrelevant. What you know about it is irrelevant. What is important is, are you describing what you're seeing? So that's what task achievement is all about. So how fully include all key features, data and trends from the chart, graph, diagram given. So all that you see must be written there. The key features, all the data, everything should be reported. It should be more like, I often tell this to my students. So when somebody reads your task 1 answer, they should get a complete picture of the data given. They should have complete idea about it. It should be as good as they saw the graph or the maps or the process or anything, because that's how well that should be the way you should have explained those things. All right. Avoid missing important information. If a line graph shows population growth for 3 countries, mention all 3, not just 1 or 2. So information is given about 3 countries, then you will talk about all the 3 countries and you will not skip a single country. Then appropriately. So first it's about writing your answers fully, like writing answers for all that you see. Whatever you see, you're describing. Then appropriacy is also an important thing. Appropriately. How appropriately you're writing your answers. Your tone and style should match the task type, which is formal and neutral. Your writing task 1 in academic is actually a formal writing that requires you to write with a formal tone or a neutral tone. So avoid using personal opinions. Just like I said, you should not be writing any of your personal opinions, but at the same time you should not be using words like in my opinion or I think. Such things must be avoided. So first, task achievement is about answering the question fully, describing what you see. The second point is about writing the answer appropriately. That means you're using the right tone, academic, formal, neutral tone. Okay, so you can see this. I've given an example there. Instead of I think the sales increased a lot, you should say sales showed significant increase over the period. So you can see the difference between these two, right? One is like a casual way of saying something. I think the sales increased a lot. Okay, it's not something that you think, you're describing what you're seeing, so it is actually you're writing some facts, right? So sales increased showed a significant increase over the period. So these kind of wordings, the idiomacy, the what do you call it, the combination of words, the right combination of words is very important. So how do you learn it? I tell my students, in order to learn it, you should read so many reports like this. You should read as many academic task 1 reports as possible, as many answers as possible. It's not just you're just going through it or reading it. It should be done in such a way that you're going through each and every element of it. You're looking at each and every word in it. I tell this to my students, like you read it like you're auditing it. Just like how an auditor would do. You're auditing every word. You're going through each and every word and the phrase, the combination of words, the cohesive devices, and all those things. You will go through it and you will develop your own sentences. So there is this one thing that I want to tell to all students. If you write a memorized answer, or if your answers look like you've memorized and written it, you will lose your marks. But if you ask me, how did we learn all these words and all the sentences that we are using now? We actually copied it, but that copying was natural. Okay, so here when you copy things in an unnatural way, or when you copy and present things in an unnatural way, that's when it looks memorized. So it is okay for you to go through a couple of essays or writing task 1 answers, and then find the cohesive devices, the idiomacy, the combination of words, the phrases that you would be able to use in your essay. But one thing you should remember is that don't force yourself to learn certain structure, certain group of words or anything. You read an essay a couple of times. So if you're taking, for example, you took a task 1 answer, academic task 1 answer, you're going through it. For example, the first sentence you saw was sales showed up a significant increase over the period. Oh, okay, so I can write, if an information comes, if a data is given in my question which says the sales increased, I can write sales showed a significant increase over the time. So it's easy for me to learn. It is easy for me to understand. So I'll learn it. I'll write it in a small notebook that I'll be keeping for this. So I'll keep a separate notebook to write the templates, to write the phrases I'm learning. You're not learning anything new. Like I always say, I'll show you this chart. I have said this in the previous lives, but for those of you who haven't heard it from me, you can look at it like this. So you see, this is a circle. So this is the circle. Inside this, you can see the words that you know very well. You know those words very well and you use it every day. Like the words that we're speaking now, we're using now. And just around it, that the bigger circle around this is, so okay, the bigger circle around it, that is the group of words that you know, that you understand, but you don't often use because you're not that familiar with those words. So, and there is this outermost circle. So you have an inner circle, middle circle, and outermost circle. The outermost circle, that shows the words you don't know at all. Okay, what students do is, and not just words, I'm also talking about phrases, the group of words or anything, idioms or whatever. What students mostly do is they spend a lot of time trying to expand the outer circle. So what happens is you get a lot of words, the list of words, but your brain doesn't know how to use it and where to use it. So, and then when you write those words or phrases, they look memorized and forced. That is the problem. So what you should do is you should focus on the middle circle, the words we know, we understand, but we don't often use. When we focus on that, those words would actually move to the inner circle, the middle, the innermost circle. So what happens is you'll be able to use it naturally. So this is how you have to do. It's okay to memorize, but you're not actually memorizing it. You say, there is a saying, right? So you don't copy, but you could be influenced by that, and then you can do things. So that's how it should be. It should look, you can memorize, you can learn things, but then it's just that it should look natural. So in order to make it look natural, this is what you have to do. In the given example, the example that I showed you, what you can see is sales showed a significant increase over the period. If you're reading it 2 times or 3 times, that will automatically get into your brain, because this is like something which we know, but we don't often use. We know these words, but we don't often use these words together. I've never tried a combination like this. So my brain is like trying this combination, this new combination, and that is pushing these words and phrases into the innermost circle, making your answers look natural and not memorized. So where do we start? We started off with that example. Now we've come so far. So that's that. And then what is another point in task achievement is that you answer the question accurately. So what do you mean by accuracy? So the data shows information, or the graph or the bar diagram or whatever that shows, that gives you a data. And when you're reporting it, for example, the data given was 75% of the students did part-time job. So it had shown the bar graph, when you looked at it, you saw 75%, exact 75%. But when you wrote your answer, you wrote around 80%. Or slightly above 70%. In this case, it's given exactly 75%. So you have to write the exact thing what you see. Just like again what I said, you should answer it fully, you should answer it appropriately. And just like what I told you, if someone's reading your task one answer, they should get a complete idea about those things. All right. So accurately reporting information and data precisely. If the chart shows 55%, don't write it off to about 60%. Accuracy matters. So now relevantly, the relevant information must be given. So what some students do, sometimes it is colored or the shape. They might mention the shape, the color and things like that. And you can avoid such things because those things are irrelevant. The data given in it is important. That is the most important thing. Okay, so look at this relevantly. Avoid unnecessary details or descriptions that do not relate to the data or given task. Example, don't describe colors or shapes of bars. See, I told you shouldn't be describing the colors, the shapes, or focus only on what the data shows, whether it increases, decreases, comparisons, the trend. You can say all of that, but not the colors or the shapes. I mean, you don't have to do that. That's irrelevant. They're just asking you to report the data. So please don't describe colors or shapes, the bars. Focus only on what it shows. Then appropriate format. This is another important thing. What do you mean by appropriate format? First, you paraphrase the question. Then you write an overview. Then below that you will give 2 body paragraphs. So each body paragraph should be categorized or divided. The data must be divided into 2 body paragraphs on the basis of some criteria. For example, in body paragraph 1, I'm going to talk about the countries that showed increasing trend. In body paragraph 2, I'm going to show the countries that showed decreasing trend, and one of those countries that remain stable. So you find some criteria on the basis of which you would divide your body paragraphs. Okay. So I'll just read it now for you. Introduction, paraphrase the question. So an example of paraphrasing. How do you paraphrase? So we'll be dealing with those things in detail. For now, just read it. The bar chart illustrates the number of students studying abroad from 2010 to 2020. So in the question, a particular statement will, the question, they'll give you a statement. You have to paraphrase it. And how to paraphrase, what are the different ways in which you can paraphrase, we'll get to those things in detail. So I'm not giving much explanation here. And next, an overview. What is an overview? Overview is a part where you're giving a summary, or where you're actually reporting the key features, I would say, or things that stand out, and those things. But here you will not give any kind of data like 56%, 67%, nothing like that. It is interesting to note that, or overall, it can be seen that most countries showed increasing trend throughout the years, or some kind of key features, common features, or things like that. That's what you give in the overview. Summarize the main trends, or the trends, increasing trend, decreasing trend, or features. Overall, the number of international students increased steadily in all the three countries. It increased steadily. Body paragraph. Group and describe data logically. This is what I said. You should group the data in such a way that it has a logic behind it, a reason behind it. Why did you write, on what basis did you group it into two paragraphs? You should be able to say that, one reason for that. So group and describe data logically. Avoid writing in essay format or introductions like I'm going to describe. Just don't use. So always remember, I think, I believe, I'm going to describe. These things are banned in your task 1 essay academic. I'm talking about academic, okay? Task 1 academic answers, never use I think, I believe, I saw. No, nothing of that sort. So, and then, example, in 2010, country A had the highest number of students, while country C showed the most rapid growth over the next decade. So in that paragraph, they will be discussing those things on the basis of a particular reason, or they would categorize it on the basis of something, some reason. Some logic, I would say, not reason, logic. Whether task 2, task response. So now we're moving on to task response. So the first assessment criterion is task achievement for task 1 academic and general, then task response for task 2. So we already looked at task 1, that is we looked at academic task 1, that is the graphs, the line and everything. Now we're going to look at task response, that is for task 2, task response for task 2. Only the first assessment criterion is different for task 1 and task 2. The rest of the assessment criteria are same for both task 1 and task 2 for IELTS academic and general. Before I start, I'll give you a few seconds for you to read task response, task 2. Try to go through it. Okay, so let's see what task response is all about. Again, it's about answering to the question without deviating from the topic. It should have a clear order, a clear idea, everything. So, and whether you fully responded to the question. Sometimes you get double question and questions like this. And recently, one of my students, when she went for her exam, she was really stressed and she got double question. One question was, what are the advantages and disadvantages? And another question was, why is it so? So she didn't answer this why part. She only answered what are the advantages and disadvantages, thinking it was an advantages, disadvantages essay. So when I asked her why, she knew she had to address both the questions, but she was so stressed that she forgot that part. Sometimes some students do it even unknowingly. So such things happen, but what I wanted to tell you was that if the question has two parts or two elements, it is important that you answer, it is important that you address both the questions, okay? Yes, task response. Whether you fully responded to the task, make sure you address every part of the question, like I mentioned. If the topic asks for causes and solutions, both must be covered. Yeah, okay? Example, if the question asks about the reasons for traffic congestion and how to reduce it, so they're asking you about the reasons for traffic congestions and how to avoid it. So for the reasons, you will say, so you have to address these 2 points in the essay. So you have to mention the reasons, at the same time the solutions. How to reduce it means the solutions. They're asking for you solutions, so you should give both the reasons and the solutions. So causes and solution, not just one. So if you just answer one, if you imagine you just answered the causes, or imagine you just answered the solutions, what will happen is your score will drop, your task response score will drop. And you know that each criterion is marked out of 9. Okay, so that means if you lose a marks here, you're actually losing 1/4 of your marks. And when it is in your task 2, you should always remember that weightage is more for task 2. I had shown how the scoring is done, right? Yes, I hope you remember that. So I hope you understand the importance of answering all the elements in a question, addressing all the different parts of a question. And have your main ideas been extended or supported? And here is another thing. So what many students do this in the body paragraphs and all, they list a lot of ideas. They have so many ideas. They have so many points for that essay. So what they'll do is they'll list all the I'm not saying they're putting bullet points or anything. So in the first sentence you'll write 1 point, and the second, so one of the causes for the traffic congestion is the population explosion, and then they will poor management and the users, or the traveler, the passengers, or the drivers are not following the rules and regulations. So there could be so many things. So in one body paragraph, first you have to give a topic sentence that should act as a heading for the whole paragraph. That should say what you will be explaining in that paragraph. So you're writing it, and then you're explaining it. You'll be giving 2 or 3 sentences for that, then an explanation. Then if you have any minor point, that 1 point. Don't ever just list the points one after the other. I'm not saying you're writing those points in bullet points, but even if a sentence, make sure that if you're explaining 1 point, explain it fully and give an example. So and that is what they're saying, that's what they mean by have your main points been extended and supported. Each main idea should be developed with clear reasoning and supporting details. So I explained it. Example. Look at this example. Instead of saying technology improves education, explain, for instance, online resources make learning more accessible to students in remote areas. So we're saying technology improves education. So technology is having a positive influence on education. So instead of just stating it, explain it. Technology, because of technology, students can access online materials, which is improving the quality of education, or access to things that they need to learn. That is even helping poor people to do that. So you're explaining that, and then you're giving examples also. How clear your position is. So your opinion or stance must be easy to understand throughout the essay, not just in conclusion. If you agree that universities should focus on practical skills, make the position clear in both the introduction and the body paragraphs. So for example, here I'll take this example. Universities should focus on practical skills. So this is our main point. Universities should focus on practical skills. So we will be giving an introduction. We'll paraphrase the question, and we say that we think that universities should focus on practical skills. And that shouldn't end there. In the body paragraphs also, you should mention that is universities should focus on practical skills, and you should explain it, give examples. So throughout the essay, the opinion should be stated. If somebody reads your body paragraphs, they should be also, even just reading the body paragraphs should help them understand what your stance is, what your opinion is. Of course, in the introduction and conclusion, you will state it. What some students do is, when they come to the body paragraphs, the answers start to become a bit vague, and we'll find it difficult to understand what their actual stand is and what their actual opinion is. Okay, so how relevant your ideas are and how appropriate the format is. So stick to the ideas that directly answer the question and follow the proper essay structure. So you have to follow the structure, that is introduction, body and conclusion. Well, that's a universal rule, okay? And again, the structure for each body paragraph, which is topic, sentence, explanation, example, a minor point, and then conclusion. This is a universal format, though, not just for IELTS. If you're writing any essay, this is the format that you should be following. So you should have a clear idea which is directly answering the question, or which directly answers the question that's given to you. And you follow a clear structure, which is your introduction, body and conclusion. Okay, so don't include off-topic ideas or personal stories. Use a formal academic tone and organized paragraphs. So you can give, even when they say you cannot give personalized opinions, for opinion essay you can give your opinions and also give personal examples. That's totally fine, but you should always maintain academic tone. That means you can't use contractions. What do you mean by contractions? I'll show you. So sometimes we write, this is how you write I am in an academic essay, or she is, or they are. So in an academic essay, this is how you write it. Contractions means, this is contraction. For she is, if I write, for they are, if I write, these are contractions. So contractions are not allowed in your academic essays. Okay, I hope that part is clear. So now that we're done with the task response part, so which all parts did we cover? We covered task achievement for task 1, academic, task response for writing task 2. Now we're going to the second criterion, which is cohesion and coherence, or coherence and cohesion. This criterion is common for task 1 and task 2. So it's about, what do you mean by coherence? Coherence is nothing, but you should have a logical order in your answer. That it should the ideas must be connecting, and it should have explained properly. It should have a logic. It should be arranged in a logical order. That's what coherence is all about. And then you should use some cohesive devices as well to connect your sentences, which shows your proficiency in the language. So you should use such things as well. Okay, just look at it. First, just go through it. Take a moment to go through it. Okay, coherence and cohesion, how well you've organized your response, explanation, logical structure, easy to follow. So when the examiner reads your question, they shouldn't feel confused. It should have an order, logical order. It should be arranged in a logical order. Clear beginning and middle and end. If you begin with an introduction, then discuss causes in one paragraph, solutions in another, it shows clear organization. So it should be organized in a logical order in paragraphs. Introduction, body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, conclusion, and even inside the body paragraphs also you should have coherence. It should follow a logical order. First, the topic sentence, which should act as a heading for the whole paragraph, which says what you are going to explain in that paragraph. Then you will give explanation, 2 or 3 sentences explanation, then you'll give an example, and then a conclusion, mini conclusion or result. Or sometimes I even say if you have a minor point, you can add that minor point as well. So next one, how logical the development of the message is. Another aspect of cohesion and coherence. How logical the development of the message is. Explanation. Ideas should progress naturally and connect smoothly. Example, when explaining a problem, you first describe it, then discuss its effects, then finally suggest solution. So first you say what it is, then you will say the problems, then you will say the solutions. That's the logical order, showing logical progression. So how well you've linked information ideas. So now another important thing is that this is what cohesion is about. You're linking your ideas, your language and information. Can you read that part? Take a couple of seconds and read it. How well you have linked information, ideas and language. Use linking words and references for smooth flow. That is cohesive devices. Using linking words like however, therefore, moreover, and as a result helps your essay read smoothly and makes your ideas connected. Here, important thing to note is that students know that they have to use cohesive devices like moreover, therefore, however. What they do is they try to force this into their essays. That it doesn't work that way. Just like I told you, you should read a lot of essays. From that, you should select sentences that are made with however and therefore, analyze the structure, learn the grammar behind it, try it a couple of times, and then use it for your exam and show it to your trainer and see what they have to say. Like if there is any correction, they'll correct it, and then you should follow this trial and error method for it. Don't just force these words and fill it and fill your essays with these words. That's not how it works, okay? Yes. Now let's move on to the next assessment criterion, which is lexical resource. What do you mean by lexical resource? It means vocabulary. Using accurate, appropriate vocabulary. And this is another thing. Many students think, I always give this example, which is like they need to write very long, huge, complicated words like fluxinocinihelipilification. You don't need to use such words. You have to use accurate and appropriate words. What do you mean by this accurate, appropriate words? Let's see. So, lexical resource means it's the range of the vocabulary used. Explanation. Use a variety of words to express ideas clearly and avoid repetition. And another thing, when students know that they have to avoid repetition, but they start using wrong synonyms. I always say a repeated word is always better than a wrong synonym, because if you're writing the wrong word there, then that would even affect the coherence of that sentence. Examiner might get confused. If examiner gets confused, you would lose marks for it. So if you're just writing, if you're repeating that word, it's just that you've repeated the word. That's it, okay? You may lose marks for your cohesion, but if you use the wrong word, you'll lose marks for both for your cohesion and for coherence. So it's always better to have a repeated word than a wrong synonym. So always make sure that you know. So while you're practicing, when you're in the class or something, when you're writing a word, it might be true. If you have a confusion like that, use it. Your trainer will correct you. But when going for exam, don't try anything new in your examination hall. Just apply what you have learned so far, the things that you have trialed and corrected. Okay? Instead of repeating increase, use alternatives like rise, grow, surge, and go up. For task 1, this is very important. For example, when you do your process diagram, you might need a lot of words like after the oranges were peeled, after which it was chopped into small pieces, after which. So you will have to use a lot of after. So at that point, it's very important that you learn some other words as well. So in these areas, and again, you see the words here for increase. What are the synonyms you're learning? Rise, go up, grow, surge. So I think maybe surge might be a new word for you. The rest, all other words you already know. So you're just pushing them into the inner circle and making yourself really comfortable when using such words. Okay? So then accuracy and appropriacy of words. So you have to use different words. You shouldn't repeat the words. That's one element of lexical resource. Another thing that you have to know is this accuracy and appropriacy of words. What do you mean by accuracy and appropriacy of words? Let's see. Choose the words that fit context and are grammatically correct. Explain. Example, saying a strong rainfall. So this is what idiomacy is all about. This is what usually, if you say strong, if you say rainfall, these are all correct words, right? A is correct, strong is correct, rainfall is correct. These words are correct. But when they came together, that's not how we usually say. We say that's a heavy rainfall. So this appropriacy and this accuracy matters. Okay, so that's what vocabulary is all about. It's not just about using wide variety or range of vocabulary. Of course it matters, but it also means this accurate and appropriate words. So if you are using wide range of vocabulary at the cost of accuracy and appropriacy, you're sure to lose marks both for your cohesion and coherence. So that's why I always say only if you are sure about a particular word or a synonym, use it. Otherwise, don't. Okay, remember, repeated words are better than wrong synonyms. Okay, ability to paraphrase effectively. So show your vocabulary and flexibility. So it is compulsory that you paraphrase in your introduction. So, and that should show the flexibility by arranging and the same idea in different ways. So example, instead of the number of cars increased, you can write there was a growth in the car ownership. See, these are the things. You see the way they've written it. The number of cars increased. That's how we usually say. But when you report it, what have they done? There was a growth in the car ownership. How do you learn to write these sentences? You read these type of sentences multiple times. So even now, just learn there was a growth in the car ownership. Now I will write it one time. So the cars, number of cars increased. Okay. So I can also say like this, there was a growth. Okay, the number of cars increased. Instead of that, I'm saying there was a growth. There was a growth. So if I say the word increase, I can write there was a growth. See, this is how you learn it. And now you're making yourself comfortable. You're teaching yourself. You should make yourself comfortable with all these words. So you should make yourself feel like, okay, I'm comfortable. I know how to use these words. You should make yourself feel that way. For that, you have to spend time. You have to invest time. I always tell my students, it's very important that you invest time in writing. Time is equal to quality time, I would say. Quality time is equal to good band score. Okay, so always keep that in your mind. Now, grammatical range and accuracy. So the fourth. So we already discussed what is task response, task achievement. Then we discussed lexical resource, cohesion and coherence. And now we're going to look at the final assessment criterion, which is grammatical range and accuracy. What do you mean by grammatical range and accuracy? Let's look at it. Variety of sentence structures. You should use simple, compound, complex. You should use variety of sentence structures. Again, if you're not comfortable with it, make sure that you learn it before you go for an exam. If you're just comfortable writing simple sentences, make sure that you focus on compound sentences as well and learn how to write them. Learn the basic grammar related to it. And if you would like to write complex sentences, don't write complex sentences at the cost of coherence, like understanding logic. So if you make a mistake there, that would affect your coherence. So you'll lose marks both for your grammar and coherence. So make sure that you try it only if you're sure, or if you don't know. First of all, you have to understand which are the areas that I'm weak in, which all are the things that I don't know. So you'll communicate it with your trainer and then you'll work accordingly. Okay, so grammatical range and accuracy, variety of sentence structures. Use different sentence types like simple, compound, complex, and compound complex to show your grammatical range. A mix of structures makes your writing more engaging and natural. I'll show you the example. Simple sentence, she likes coffee. So that is like a simple sentence. Then we have compound sentence. Compound sentences, she likes coffee and he prefers tea. Okay, two independent clauses. This is just an overview, okay? You may not understand what's written here. It's totally fine. You will discuss these things in detail when it's the time for it. Or if you just saw it and you don't understand what it is, you can drop a message here. We'll definitely explain it to you in detail. Or if you have a trainer now, just go ask your trainer. I'm sure they will help you with this. So now I'm just giving an overview of it, just making sure that you have seen these things, you're familiar with these things, you know there are things like this and they ask for these kind of things, and it's good if we have time to work on such things and make complex or compound sentences. So you must have heard simple, compound, complex, but might have not seen, or definitely you must have seen but might have not noticed what it is. So compound, now complex sentences. She likes coffee because it helps her stay awake. One independent clause, she likes coffee. One dependent clause, because it helps her stay awake. Then compound complex sentence. I wanted to go for a walk, but it started raining before I could step outside. Two independent clauses. I wanted to go for a walk and it started raining. And one dependent clause, which is before I could step outside. So what did you say? You saw simple sentence, compound sentence, complex sentence, compound complex sentence. See, if you're not comfortable with complex or compound complex sentence, don't go for it. And sometimes some students say come and say like they only have 20 days for their exam, and if you start working on complex compound sentence, you're not going to reach anywhere. You have so many other assessment criteria and their elements to work on, that you can see a result in 20 days. So make sure that you plan it accordingly. So if you only have 1 month, I would say, and if you only know to make simple and compound sentence, I would say don't go for complex sentences at this point. You have so many things to focus. You have other modules to focus, and also here other assessment criteria to focus on, and there are certain elements for those criteria that you can focus on and see a good result or a better result. So make sure you plan it accordingly. It's always very important that you plan such things. And accuracy in grammar and punctuation. And this is another area. Some students, I had this student who would always, so if he is writing apples, you may not believe it, but I'm telling you, there are students like this. So there are people who make, some of you may not believe when I say this, but there are students who make such mistakes. But and it's very hard to correct them as well, because even if you correct them, this has been a habit for so long that it's very hard to break such habits and make them unlearn and relearn. So what he does is, if he writes any plural noun, for example apples, he would put an apostrophe, by which he actually means apples, as in there are two apples, but when he writes it, he always puts an apostrophe. That's a punctuation mark. If he does it so many times, especially if he does it so many times in an essay, he will lose marks for it for sure, for this criterion, grammar. Okay, so that is a problem. So there are so many problems with punctuation. Some students don't start their sentences with capital letters, or some students won't put capital letter, first capital letter for the proper nouns. They don't start proper nouns with capital letters. So students make different kinds of mistakes. For all those mistakes, your marks go down in this assessment criterion, which is your grammatical range and accuracy. So accuracy in grammar and punctuation. Maintain correct tenses, articles, and tenses is another thing. This happens mostly in task 1. Okay, IELTS academic task 1. Sometimes they give you data information about past year. So then you have to use simple past tense. Sometimes they give you information about the present. So then you have to use present tense. Sometimes they even give you a projection for the future year. Then you have to use simple like future tense. So always remember, you should understand the tense, and also even while writing the essay, most of the time you may need simple present tense. So so you should know which tense you should be using in that particular essay. We'll get into those things. We'll look into those things in detail. But for now, just have an understanding. These are the things that you should focus. Then articles. Some students don't write the at the right place. or they make mistakes with the articles like an, the, and things like that. Prepositions, at, on, in. This is a commonplace. Making mistakes with prepositions is very common, but it's very easy to understand as well. We'll get to those things in detail. And punctuation throughout your writing. So here, if I tell you, is it like, how do we learn all these things? How do we learn prepositions? How do we learn punctuation, articles? I would say, instead of taking, so now what some students do is that, I would say that is a mistake, or it might be just my opinion. If you think that's not how it should be done, then and if you think that doesn't, what I'm saying doesn't work for you, you can follow what works for you. But what I have noticed is, when students are preparing for IELTS, what they do is they buy a grammar book, or they go to a place where they teach you grammar, every aspects of it, even the jargon, the grammar jargons. They learn about complex sentence, compound sentence. They spend so much time learning about the articles, the prepositions, and all those things. But sometimes you don't need all of that. You don't need all of that you learn in a grammar book for your IELTS essay writing. You might need just some aspects of it. When it comes to preposition, the kind of thing that you need is, for example, you're writing IELTS general. And in prepositions, in the letter, you mostly need to write on which date. So at 5 p.m. So you might need to know prepositions of time, just where we use at, when it is specific. When do we use on, when it is less specific? When do we use in, when it is least specific? So maybe you only need to know these things instead of learning doing a lot of exercises and learning a lot of jargons. So always make sure first you write an essay, you show it to an expert and get their advice, and figure out which all areas you lack. So if you have problems with your preposition, and if it is with preposition, is it with prepositions of time or prepositions of place, you figure it out, and then you look for the easiest way to learn it, rather than just going through the whole grammar book and all the whole chapters about it. If it is about articles, you don't have to learn a whole chapter on it, or go so in detail, learn it in detail. You only have to just read the main parts of it, and that's all you need to do. So what I'm trying to say is, instead of first learning grammar and then learning writing, I would say first do your writing and find out which all things you need, and just learn that, and in that also learn only the part that you need here. Is it clear? So that's how you should be doing it. So even with tenses, maybe you don't need to learn all the tenses. I never had to teach any of my students future perfect or future perfect continuous, like all those tenses, because we don't always use them. Of course those are needed. I'm not saying those things are not needed. I'm saying when it comes to your writing, you may not need to write all of those things, or use all of those things. So you should be careful about that. So grammatical errors can definitely lower your score. Again, this is 1/4. So each assessment criterion is marked out of 9, right? So if that score goes down, that would definitely affect your score. Error type and incorrect example. So I'll just quickly read it. Tense. He go to work every day is wrong, because of subject verb agreement. You should write he goes to work every day. What is the subject verb agreement? That is when you have a single subject, verb should also be single. To make a verb single, you have to add s or es. Here, look at this. He is singular. When subject is singular, verb has to be singular. Verb has to be singular. It has to have es. So here it is, he goes to work every day is correct. See, now, if you were a student who didn't know this, and when I explained it, you knew that, you came to know that, you don't know it, right? And when I explained it, you're learning it in simple ways. Okay, that's it. That's how you learn it. He goes to work every day. Article, she bought umbrella. She bought an umbrella. And because it starts with vowel, if it starts with a vowel, then you put an. If it starts with a consonant, then you put a. Preposition, she depends on, not in, on. So how do you learn these kind of prepositions and these kind of usages? I would say you should read more and focus and read. You should put a lot of attention to what you're reading, not like the normal way of reading, just like how you read a newspaper or something. It's more like an auditing way of reading. Punctuation. Let's eat grandma. You see, just a comma changes the whole meaning. So by which what they meant was, let's eat grandma. But when they wrote it without a punctuation, it meant the meaning changed, and it means let us eat our grandma. Punctuation again. I like reading, writing, and drawing. So we have to put commas to complete the meaning of it. And we have one more part. We'll cover that and wrap it up. So control over complex structures. Explanation. Different from point 1. Variety of sentence structures focuses on different types of sentences. You have to use different types of sentences. Control over complex structures focuses on using them correctly. Yes, this is the point I mentioned before. It's not about you just using it. They've told you have to use it, but you should have a control over it. You should know to use it correctly. You should handle longer or more advanced sentences accurately to show a high level of grammatical control. Example, although technology has made life easier, it has also created new challenges. So this is a complex sentence containing one dependent clause. Although technology has made life easier, that is the dependent clause, and one independent clause, it has also created new challenges. By this, we're done with all the assessment criteria. We covered each of the assessment criterion. And some notes: write your answers in full. Don't use bullet points, no subheadings, no greetings, no diagrams, nothing. You would just write a standard academic formal essay. I hope this was helpful to all of you, and like I mentioned before, this is just for you to have an understanding of what this thing is all about. And then in the upcoming lives, we'll look into in detail into each of these parts and each of the question types and answers. So we'll meet again in the next live, which will be on next Friday at 5:30 p.m. Till then, take care, bye, and good night.